Hey guys, in this video we are going to play around a little bit with my recently restored Hewlett-Packard 8568B spectrum analyzer. In particular, I want to try replicating an experiment I came across while researching this device, and that is to look at and listen to an AM broadcast station. First, let's talk a little bit about what this device does when you turn it on and you're in factory default settings. So on this display here, we have frequency on the horizontal axis and amplitude in the logarithmic scale on the vertical axis. And the horizontal axis has 0 hertz on the left, 1.5 gigahertz on the right. So think of this as if you had an AM radio that had a dial scale that went from 0 to 1,500 megahertz or 1.5 gigahertz, and you were rotating that dial all the way from one end to the other and then back again and again and again and again. And instead of hearing the stations, you're seeing the strength of each station as you scan across that dial. For my input, I just have a whip antenna going right to the input jack, so we're picking up just whatever currently is in the air. Now let's change a few things. One, let's change the frequency scan to be the AM broadcast band. So roughly 540 kilohertz. Alright, so let's start at 540 kilohertz and stop 1700 kilohertz. Alright, there we go. So now we have a start of 450, 540 I mean, and a stop of 1.7 megahertz. Put my hand on this antenna, hey, we're seeing an indication on there. I also want to change it, instead of being logarithmic, let's look at linear, which will help us see more of this signal. Notice we don't see anything now. Well, there's also a reference level you need to set. I think it's off the bottom of the screen. So he used a reference level of 100 microvolts, but I find that that's pegging my screen, so let's do 200 microvolts. And I'm going to clip on a longer antenna. Alligator lead here. Alright, so now I get a bit more RF coming in. Alright, so those are the stations in my broadcast area. We have one in particular, AM 720 WGN, that's pretty strong, so let's change the center frequency to be 720 kilohertz. So we've got our center at 720, but we're still seeing a whole bunch of stuff. That's because I'm still spanning 1.16 megahertz from left to right. Let's narrow that way down. So let's do a frequency span of, say, 25 kilohertz. So one thing we can do that I didn't realize this could do is we can set the frequency span actually to 0, and which will make this work more like an oscilloscope, where we're just going to look at that frequency. And you might think, well, then we're just going to see a single line that goes up and down, but no, you actually see it move across the screen. So it still sweeps over time. That's what I mean. It kind of turns it into an oscilloscope, where this horizontal axis becomes time, and we're looking at just one frequency on the input filter. So let's do that. The frequency span 0 hertz. And now we're seeing something that looks like, hey, maybe we could listen to that. How do we listen to that? This thing doesn't have a speaker built into it. Well, there's a video out jack on the back that we can tap into, and in his demo he fed it into a audio amplifier, so we'll try doing that. Now, it may seem a little odd, but I don't actually have a handy audio amp because I don't work on audio gear. Audio stuff I work on has its own built-in amplifier. But I think we could probably make use of this Hewlett-Packard signal tracer, which does have an amplifier built into it. So if I hook the output of that up to this, which is a bit of a time difference there in eras, this is tube-based, and then of course a solid state. First thing we got to do is get at that video output. And when I call it a video output, I'm not quite sure. I still haven't learned what all this can do, but there's also a video bandwidth button up here. But I don't think they mean video in the sense of what we think is video, as being like a TV or a computer monitor. It means something else. But at any rate, there's a bunch of BNC jacks in the back of this, and we got to get to them. But it'll also give me an opportunity to do something, because when I put this all back together, I forgot to install this cover plate. Luckily, it's on this top unit, which means I don't have to dismantle the whole thing. If it was the bottom unit, I'd be a little more bummed out. I could pop the cover off of this, reinstall this, and I should be able to climb up on the workbench and feel around back there and find that video output jack. So let's power this down, take the stuff off the top of it, and pop the lid on it. Alrighty, got the unit button back up, and I connected the video out. It's a second jack from the top next to the XYZ outputs. The topmost jack is a sweep output, which will be a sawtooth as it goes across the screen. And the video output, I was thinking about this, the video output, I'm sure, is the actual signal. When I was playing around with using an external XY monitor, you can see a little bit better that this grid and the text is drawn separately from the actual signal. So I'm going to video out means this portion. Okay, so I took that video out and have it going to my little Heathkit signal tracer. There's a model T2. Has a 1/4 inch jack for an input. I actually don't have one handy, so I kind of rigged up something and had a broken lead, so I shoved a resistor in there. But here's the crazy thing. It works. It's not great, but there is a very expensive, very complicated, not very good sounding radio. Now that we have that going, a little hard here over the fan, well, we can play around with this. Yes, just to prove it to you, we are actually receiving this through this device. Now, if I change the center frequency, do it with this dial, we can tune it in like a radio. So I'm now tuning this in 0.1 kilohertz steps, so it's a little slow. To another station. Let's see if I do this, it goes in larger steps. Okay, so there's AM 780. Let's go back to WGN. Something else we can do to play around with the fidelity a little bit. So we were listening to video bandwidth in auto. If we go to manual and tune this now, we can change it. So here it is with a 300 hertz bandwidth, very muffled. If we go up higher, we get a bit more clarity, but we also get more noise. 79 here to Lakefront. It tops out at 3 kilohertz. An hour to go in the week, the Dow's up 300 points, the NASDAQ is down 60, and the S&P better by 8. I'm Steve Bertrand, WGN News. Resolution band. 2:30 on the Lisa Dent Show. 207 right now. It's a beautiful day in the city of Chicago. With this, if I go up to 10 kilohertz, we get a lot more noise. Cubs fans were losing their minds last night, down, including lose fidelity, but less noise.
You know that name if you've spent any time in Chicago. He joins us to talk about Labriola Italian specialties. And Jacqueline Dixon, Willie Dixon's daughter. It's What's on Deck today, brought to you by our friends.
Now, these were not designed to be a radio, so of course it's not going to work like a radio does, but I wanted to illustrate to you. I hope that makes a little more sense as to what these do. Think of it, at least in this operating mode, this demonstration, like a police scanner, where you can scan across the dial or tune into one station and then play around with, think of it as having a variable IF in effect. And we can change the gain a little bit. One thing I don't think we can do though, let's go back to trying to scan the whole FM band. Now I can change that sweep speed, and I'm thinking if we go slower, we might be able to briefly hear each station. Oh, now we can hear the difference if I turn my shop lights off. That's something else I'm going to demonstrate. On, you can see that noise floor goes up considerably, and off. Alright, let's slow that sweep speed down. So sweep time, we can also go manual on that. So right now it's doing a 1 second sweep. Let's go to 1.5, there's 2. Now we're starting to hear a little something. 3, 5. Let's do a 10. Go any slower than that. Yep, here's 20. Should definitely hear stations now. Wow, you can really go slow with this. There's a 100-second sweep. It'll take it almost 2 minutes to go across the dial. But now we should really hear a station when it gets on one. One coming up. Not exactly intelligible, but we can also shorten up that rate.
Yeah, nice.
I hope this gives you a better idea
On eBay,
of what these things can do. So this is one application where we're just sniffing what's in the air around us. And in this case, actually not only seeing it, but listening to it. And we get an idea of the signal strength. So obviously the station in the middle here, I'm receiving more strongly than the other two.
I mean,
Next up, I'm going to try to look at a video signal. I got some great insights and suggestions from one of my Patreons. He sent me some great technical info. And I'm especially curious to see if we can show what a video signal with no color information looks like versus one with color information, and to show how they had to sacrifice some video bandwidth, some image quality to cram in that color info. It's going to be it for now. Thanks for watching.